Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I would like to give all praises, honor, glory, respect, and blessings to the creators of the heaven and earth, Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem, Wachaha, Quadash. Salutations to the Lord's elect on the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth and sincerity while patiently waiting for Yahweh Shai's return. And double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, which have taught us everything we know through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai. The true name of the Heavenly Father is Yahweh. His son's name is Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus. And I'm out here once again to prophesy the downfall of America, which is known as Babylon the Great in the Holy Scriptures, and to let you so-called white people know that according to biblical prophecy, you're going to be a slave in the kingdom of heaven. And that you so-called Negro, Latino, and Native Indians, you are the true biblical Israelites that the Holy Scriptures speak of. Okay, we're not out here to spare anybody's feelings. We don't care if you get emotional, if you're a crybaby, if you're hurt. We're out here to speak the truth according to the Holy Scriptures. Okay, so we don't give a fuck if you people get hurt, if you get offended. Okay, we don't care about none of that shit. We're out here standing on business in the name of Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai. Okay? And it's not just the so-called white man that's going into slavery. According to biblical prophecy, you heathens are going into slavery too, according to biblical prophecy. Now, the book that I'm going to start off in is the book of Revelation, chapter 13, and I'm going to start at 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns. Now let's stop right there. It said that a beast came up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Now the 7 heads are the 7 different governments of NATO, okay, which consist of the Greeks, the Romans, the Spanish, okay, Britain, Germania Major, Germania Minor, and Germania Minor, and I can't remember the last one right off the back of my head, but I know it's going to come to me. Okay? You got the Greeks, the Romans, you got the Spanish, the British, you got Germania Major, Germania Minor, and one off the back of my head. Okay. And I believe the Romans. It could be Rome. Okay? The Romans. I'm guessing. Okay? The Romans. I believe it is. I believe it is the Romans. Okay? Well, Rome. Rome, whatever, you know. Okay? And these are the 7 governments which pretty much control NATO. And the 10 horns is talking about the EU, which would be the European Union. But back then was known as the European Economic Community. Okay? And these 10 horns are actually 10 cities, which I cannot name them all off the back of my head. But I know there's Belgium, there's the Nether Realm, okay? there's Portugal and Spain. Okay. You got Italy is up in there. Okay. You got Italy. Just to name a few, but these are the 10 cities which are governed by the 7 heads. Okay. So this dragon right here is talking about NATO. Okay. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I know the name of the seven heads and the 10 horns, but it's just I can't remember the 10 horns right now. Okay, I believe Ireland is another one of them. Okay, Ireland. And hold on a second. Satan is at work again. I'm just going to tie this up real quick and then commence back to edification. Okay? And in the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter, okay, in the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter, there is a woman, the great whore, that sitteth upon the scarlet colored beast. Okay? Lord's will, we're going to get into that. Okay? It says, and upon his horns 10 crowns. Okay? And the crowns represent rulership. Okay? And upon his head, the name of blasphemy. Okay? And yeah, the name of blasphemy, because you'll look at things like okay, you'll look at things like the image of who the world ignorantly calls Jesus, and you'll see an image, a depiction of Cesare Borgia. Okay, they have a whole bunch of false images of the angels. Okay, you know, they depict the angels as looking like little Edomite babies with their wee-wees out, butt naked, and they got a bow and arrow in their hand. Okay, okay, blasphemy. When you go to the book of Job, chapter 9, verse 24, it tells you the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. Okay, who's the wicked? The wicked are the Edomites. Malachi chapter 1, verse 4. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord have indignation forever. So Edom is the border of wickedness. Who is Edom? Genesis 36, verse 1. Now these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom. Okay, Esau is the progenitor of the so-called white race that you see walking upon the face of the earth today. Okay, so because the earth has been given into the hands of the wicked, one of the things they did, which during the Renaissance period, they painted over the dark images of the apostles, the Lord, his disciples. Okay, they painted the Most High as being some half-naked dude laying on a cloud to touching fingers with King David. Okay, so those are your examples right there, your live examples of blasphemy. And what did Yahushua say? And I wonder if that's in the book of Matthew, the 12th chapter. Because in the book of Matthew, the 12th chapter, Yahushua said what? I believe it's Matthew, the 12th chapter, but give me a moment. Yahushua basically said in the book of Matthew, it's somewhere in there, all manner of blasphemy shall be forgiven, but blasphemy against the Holy Spirit shall not be forgiven. Okay? So, the so-called white man committed blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. Okay, that's the spirit. Matthew chapter 12, verse 31. Okay, wherefore I say unto you, all manner of sin and blasphemy shall be forgiven unto men, but blasphemy against the Holy Spirit shall not be forgiven unto men. You see that? So Esau committed blasphemy against the Holy Spirit by painting the Messiah, his disciples, the apostles, the Most High, as looking like a bunch of Edomites. Because to look like an Edomite is a curse. Okay? That is a curse that the Most High put upon the self-proclaimed white man. Why? Going back to the book of Genesis, okay? When you go to the book of Genesis and you read about the account of Cain and Abel, Cain murdered his brother Abel. So the Lord cursed, so the Lord put a mark upon Cain, and that curse was what? The curse of leprosy. Okay, which made it easy for everybody to know who Cain was, so that nobody took his life. Because everybody on the planet during the time of Adam and Eve had brown skin and woolly hair. So the Lord cursed Cain with leprosy. So when Cain came back in the reincarnation as Esau, the Lord stripped Esau completely of his melanin. That is why Esau was described as coming out red all over like a hairy garment, going back to the book of Genesis, the 25th chapter. Okay, Esau was described as red all over. Why? Because he had no melanin. Therefore, his skin was translucent, and you could see his blood through his skin as a baby. He came out looking red because of the blood that showed forth through his skin. Okay? Now on that van it says pray, right? But what did the Messiah say? I pray for the elect. I pray not for the world. Okay? I pray not for the world, but for the men which thou hast given me, for they are, and they are thine. Okay? So the Lord's elect, and the Lord ain't praying for the whole world. The Lord is praying only for his elect men. So we're going to go back to Revelation chapter 13, and I'm going to read verse 2. It says, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. Okay? Now, let's go over here to the book of Daniel real quick, because the leopard is mentioned here in the book of Daniel. Okay, and the leopard is the third beast. Okay? So before I read that, I'm going to read this again. Okay, Revelation 13 verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. Okay, now that leopard is, okay, that leopard, which we're going to get into that. So let's get into that right now. Okay, Daniel chapter 7 verse 6. Okay, again, Daniel chapter 7 verse 6. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given unto it. So this leopard right here is talking about Alexander. Okay, the 4 wings or the 4 heads is talking about Alexander's 4 generals. Alexander had 4 generals: Cassander, Lysimachus, Ptolemy, and Seleucid. Okay, Seleucid the first. Okay, and this leopard represents the beginning of Alexander. This leopard represents the beginning of Esau's rulership. Because prior to that, okay, the only ones who was rising up the only ones who was actually in power was who? The only ones that was actually in power were the Hamites, the Moabites, the Ammonites. Okay, which the Hamites are the Africans, the Moabites are the Chinese, the Ammonites are the Japanese, the Ishmaelites are the Arabians. They were also in power. Okay, the Edomites, also known as the Persians, which are the East Indians, they was also in power. So during the Assyrian Babylonian Empire, there were two major nations that was in power. That would be Japheth, which were known as the Medes around those times. Japheth, the Medes, and then the Persians, which are the East Indians. Okay, that was after they took out. That was after they took down the Assyrians. Okay, that was after they took down the Assyrians. Because ancient Babylon was never destroyed. There was simply a transition of power. Okay? Because the Assyrians, you know, they pretty much got complacent because they had all this power. And little did they know, the Lord raised up an enemy to come up against them, conquer them, and then ultimately take over their kingdom. And that's where you get the the Medo-Persian Empire. Okay? So after the Medo-Persian Empire, which I believe is the bear, right? Then you get the leopard, you know? That's where Alexander comes in. Alexander the Greek, okay? There was nothing great about Alexander. He was a Greek, okay? And he was a homo on top of that, okay? Okay, he was into other dudes. There wasn't nothing great about Alexander. But the reason why you Edomites call him Alexander, the reason why you Edomites, which are you self-proclaimed white people, the reason why you call him Alexander the Great is because he is the beginning, he is the start and the beginning of y'all rising up to power. Okay? So this leopard represents the beginning of Esau rising up to power and having dominion. As a matter of fact, it tells you right here in Daniel. Okay? Yeah, Daniel 7:6. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given unto it. That dominion represents rulership. So the leopard is the beginning of Esau's rulership. Okay? So back in Revelation 13 verse 2, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear. Now, the feet of a bear, the feet is what? The end of your body. So we know that the bear in the book of Daniel, the 7th chapter, we know that the bear was the Medo-Persian Empire, right? Well, if we look on the map today, right? Okay, the land of the Medes is being inhabited by who? Esau. Okay, the Edomites is ruling over the land of the Medes. Okay, the land of the Medes could be found over there in Russia today. Okay, so this bear right here in Revelation 13 and 2, this is not talking about the ancient Medo-Persian Empire. Okay, this is talking about the modern Medes in today's time. Okay, who's dwelling in the land of Medes and who's dwelling in the land of Medes today? The Russians are. The Russians are dwelling in the land of the Medes. So the modern day Medes today will be the Russians. So the Russians, they will be the bear, the feet of the bear spoken of in the book of Revelation 13 and verse 2. Now you may ask, you know, we know that the feet is the end of a body, right? The feet is the end of your body. So what is Revelation 13 verse 2 saying here? Okay, the bear is going to be the end of Esau's rulership. Okay, the Edomite rulership started with the Greeks, started with Alexander, and it's going to end with the Edomites, who are the Russians today. Okay, so the bear, Russia, which is the bear, is going to be the end of Esau. Okay, it's okay. Because the Lord is going to use the Edomites to bring about the end of their kingdom. Right? Now, before I bring out Isaiah 13, let me bring this out in Matthew 12 real quick. Okay, Matthew chapter 12, verse 20. Matthew 12, verse 25. Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. So every kingdom or house divided against itself shall not stand. Because even as I speak, there is a division going on right now amongst the nation of Edom. You got the Russians who got their eyes set against the United States of America. Okay? And there's this ongoing contention that is going on between Russia and the United States of America. See? Okay? Verse 26, and if Satan cast out Satan, right, and if Satan attacks himself, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? Right? So every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. You see? Okay, so let me read Matthew 12, verse 25 again. And Yahweh knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. Okay, so the Lord is going to use Russia to bring about the end of Esau Edom's rulership. Okay, Isaiah chapter 13, verse 19. Hold on. Okay, let me start at 17. Isaiah chapter 13, verse 17. Behold, I will stir up the meats against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. So the meats, the Lord is going to stir up the meats against them. Against who? Against Babylon. Who is modern day Babylon? America. Because remember, we know that back in the ancient world, the Lord used the Medes, the Japhetic people, the Medes, to take down the Assyrian Babylonian Empire, and then ultimately to take control of the rule of it. But in this generation, the Lord is going to stir up the modern day Medes against modern day Babylon. Okay? And in the book of Revelation, which when you look up the word revelation, the word revelation literally means to reveal. Okay? The word revelation literally means to reveal. So in the book of Revelation, it reveals a new Babylon. Because when John the Revelator came on the scene, okay, ancient Babylon was already desolate, okay, abandoned. Was nothing really popping there in ancient Babylon. So when John the Revelator, when he wrote about Babylon in the book of Revelation, okay, he spoke of a new Babylon that would rise up in the last days, that would pretty much have control over the whole inhabited earth. And that new Babylon is the United States of America. Okay? So we know that in this generation, the modern day Medes are the Russians. Okay? The new modern day Babylon is the United States of America. Okay? So Isaiah, I'm going to read Isaiah 13 verse 17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes, the Russians, against them, against Babylon, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Right? Because in those days, America's currency is going to be shit, toilet paper. It's going to be worthless. Okay? So what kind of money or what kind of dollars could you possibly exchange with Russia? Okay, and Russia is they're already dealing in gold and silver when it comes to trades between them and Iran and possibly other countries, but namely Russia and Iran. In certain countries, Russia is trading in gold and silver because the US dollar is not real money. Okay, it's fiat currency. When you look up the word fiat, it means fake. Okay, it's not real. Okay, so let's read verse 18. Isaiah 13 verse 18. It says, their bows shall dash the young men to pieces. The bows is talking about the guns. Okay, when you look at how a gun, especially a yellow jacket, a gun that shoots yellow jackets, well, the impact that a yellow jacket gives to a human body after it hits it literally dashes right through the person, putting a hole in their body. Okay? So imagine getting shot in the body multiple times by a yellow jacket. Okay? That's an example of somebody getting dashed to pieces by a bow, because the bow is really just a metaphor for these different guns that Esau got. So when Russia, because according to biblical prophecy, Russia is going to invade America. And when they invade America, they're not going to pity any Americans on the soils of America. And they're not going to pity anybody on the soils of America. Okay? As soon as they land on 10 toes, they coming here to do business. Okay? They're coming here to do business. Okay? Their bows shall dash the young man to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eye shall not spare children. And Babylon, verse 19, right? And now, here's the indicator to show you that the Lord is going to use the Russians to bring about the end of Esau, Edom's rulership. Okay? And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when Yahweh overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, how was ancient Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed? Ancient Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed by fire and brimstone. Okay? Now, when we go to the book of Revelation, just real quick, Revelation chapter 14, verse 9. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast in his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his head, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Yahweh, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented, okay? And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone. Just like how the Lord rained ancient fire, just like how the Lord rained fire and brimstone on ancient Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. Because while people are being tormented with fire and brimstone through nuclear warheads raining from the sky, which I'm going to get into where the nuclear warheads are going to come from, okay? While people are being tormented and by fire and brimstone from the explosion of nuclear warheads, right? Yahweh and the angels are going to be present. Why? Because during those times, there is also going to be deliverances. The Lord's elect, the 1/3, is going to be getting beamed up into what the world calls UFOs, what the Bible calls the chariots of Israel. Okay? And they're going to be getting beamed up into spaceships from the nuclear catastrophe that is going to be happening in America and over there in the land of Israel. Because the nuclear missiles are going to come from Russia. The nuclear missiles are going to come from North Korea. The nuclear missiles are going to come from India, Iran. They're going to come from China, Russia, Moscow, and NATO. Because according to Obadiah chapter 1 verse 7, NATO, the beast, the 7 heads, the 10 horns upon the beast, spoken of in Revelation 17 verse 17, okay? The beast is going to betray America and shoot intercontinental ballistic missiles on this place too. So back in Isaiah 13 verse 19. Okay? And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency shall be as when Yahweh overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, what was ancient Sodom and Gomorrah known for? Okay, ancient Sodom and Gomorrah was known for men committing sodomy, women lying down with women, okay? Men committing pedophilia, bestiality, committing incest, okay? Men having sex with their sisters, their brothers, their mothers, and these were all Africans doing this shit, okay? Hamites, the Hamites today, they were all doing this, having sex, okay? Fathers having sex with their sons, sons having sex with their fathers, fathers having sex with their daughters, their sons, all kind of detestable acts were going on in Sodom and Gomorrah. And guess what? Those same practices are done here in America. Okay, and a matter of fact, to show you that America is also known as modern day Sodom and Egypt, let's go to Revelation 11. Revelation 11 verse 8, and their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom, which, okay, let's read that again. Revelation 11 verse 8, and their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. Now, it said the great city. What's that great city? Okay? That great city is the United States of America. The United States of America is that great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt. So America is not only known as Egypt, it is also known as Sodom, as well as Babylon the Great. Back in Isaiah 13 verse 19, in Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency shall be as when Yahweh overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. So the Lord is going to rain fire and brimstone on America, which is modern day Sodom. And that fire and brimstone is going to come by the way of intercontinental ballistic missiles, which can carry up to 10 to 15, even up to 60 nuclear warheads. Verse 20, it shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in for generation to generation, neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. But wild beasts of the islands shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. And the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. And her time is near to come. Her days shall not be prolonged. So this place is described as looking like one big desert after the fire and smoke clears out from the nuclear destruction of this country. Now, you so-called white people, you love doing videos on how you have, space trash that landed on Mars, and whenever you have this thing traveling through Mars, you like to depict Mars as being some red desert, a red desert where there's nothing but rocks, sand, dirt, hills, mountains, crevices, craters. Well, guess what? The Lord is showing you the future of America, because that's how America's going to look. Okay? America is literally going to look like Mars. The only difference is that Mars is supposedly red, right? You cannot trust everything the devil says, but Mars is supposedly red, right? Well, guess what? The soil over here on the soils of America is not going to be red. Okay? So after the fire and smoke clear out from the nuclear destruction of America, okay, this place is going to be left looking like one big desert. Now, again, let's go to the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah 51, and I'll start at 1. Okay, thus saith the Lord, behold, I will rise up against Babylon, which is America, and against them that dwell in the midst of them, that rise up against me, a destroying wind. What is that destroying wind? That destroying wind is talking about a large wall of fire and radiation coming from the explosion of nuclear warheads. Okay? So it says, I will raise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me, a destroying wind. And I will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her and empty her land. Okay? And how is the land of America going to be made empty? Through nuclear destruction, man. In which, again, the nuclear warheads are going to come from Russia, NATO, North Korea, Iran, India, Moscow. Okay? India, I already said India, China. Okay? All these nuclear warheads are going to come from them, man. These are the ones that's going to empty America, the land of America, and make this place a desert, according to Isaiah 13, verse 19, down to 21. Okay, and what happens when you take a flame What happens when you take a fan to a flame? It intensifies the flame and causes the flame to spread. So that's exactly what's going to happen. Okay? Because when a nuclear warhead explodes, it creates a heavy gust of wind accompanied by radiation and extreme heat. And I will send unto Babylon fatteners that shall fatten her and empty her land. For in the day of trouble, they shall be. Now notice how it says they. The they is talking about more than just one country, okay? There's going to be multiple countries that's going to be surrounding America, in which America is already being surrounded by different countries, okay? We cannot forget about nuclear submarines that can carry nuclear warheads that are traveling underwater, man. This country is already being surrounded. Okay, verse 3, against him that bendeth what? The bow. Okay, because the bow is a metaphor for the silos in which the nuclear warheads sit inside of. Okay? That's what the bow represents. So against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow. Against him that lifteth himself up in his brigandine, and spare ye not her young men, destroy ye utterly all her host. So this whole country is going to be made desolate. Now let's skip down to verse 11 to show you that the Lord is going to use the Medes, because Russia is going to be the head that's going to lead into the destruction of the United States of America. So Jeremiah 51 verse 11. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. The Lord had raised up the spirit of the king of the Medes. So who are the kings of the Medes? Who is the king of Mede today? Russia. Now they don't call it king over there necessarily. They don't call it president. They call it Vladimir. Vladimir is just another way of saying president or ruler. Just like prime minister. Prime minister is just another way of saying ruler or leader. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to read it again. Jeremiah 51 verse 11. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. The Lord hath raised up the spirit of the king of the Medes. For his device, what device? Those intercontinental ballistic intercontinental ballistic missiles, which are described as arrows in the Holy Scriptures. Okay? Now, when it says make bright the arrows is a metaphor for the ICBM missiles, the intercontinental ballistic missiles, which could carry up to 60 nuclear warheads. Okay? Okay, gather the shields. the Lord hath raised up the spirit of the king of the Medes, the kings of the Medes. For his device is against Babylon to destroy it. You see that? It to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord, the vengeance of his temple. So when we go back to Revelation chapter 13, verse 2, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, that is the beginning of Esau's rulership, and his feet were as the feet of a bear. The bear represents the end of Esau's rulership. And that bear is talking about Russia. Okay, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. Because what's a part of what makes a lion so dreadful? Its teeth. Okay? What is the teeth of Esau's power structure? His military. That's how he was able to conquer the world, man. Through his military. So this creature had you see. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, the beginning of Esau's rulership, and his feet as the feet of a bear, the end of Esau's rulership, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. That's talking about his military. Because the Lord is going to use Esau to use the Lord is going to use Esau, the Russians, to get the Russians to use their military to shoot those nukes on America and on the land of Israel, where those imposters are at. Okay, so the mouth is talking about its military might, its strength. Okay, and its mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Now let's read verse 3. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. Now that head right there, that head is talking about the Roman Empire. Okay? Because again, when you go to Daniel, the 7th chapter, let's go to Daniel 7. Get ready for slavery, devils! Chains and shackles is coming for you. Now, this is the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 7. After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast. Now, this fourth beast is talking about the Roman Empire. Okay? Dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth. And that iron teeth is talking about, again, its military. Okay, well, what is the lion's mouth known for? Its teeth. So this dragon had great iron teeth. Furthermore, when you do your research on the Roman army, okay, when you do your research on the Roman army, okay, whenever they went to war, or before they went to war, okay, they would literally make swords out of iron. Okay, their swords would be made out of iron. Okay, that's how they was able to conquer and to take down many nations around them, because they had swords of iron. And iron is one of those metals that's extremely hard to break, man. Okay, iron is extremely hard to break. You know, so these Roman soldiers, they had swords of iron. So that's what it means by that's what it means by the dragon had great iron teeth. That's talking about the Roman Empire's military might. And if you look at a sword, it kind of does resembles what? Teeth. Especially if you hold the blade like this and the sword is just facing up, it literally looks like teeth. Sharp teeth, okay? Okay? And then it goes on to say, it devoured and break in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Right? So what made this beast diverse from all the others? It had a great military might first and foremost, but unlike every other kingdom, which had kings, a monarch to rule over it, the Roman Empire did not deal with monarchy. Okay? The Roman Empire dealt with something that is called elections or Caesars. Okay? The Roman Empire did not deal with monarchies. They dealt with Caesars, in which you will have the Senate, which was known as the old man. When you do your research, the Senate was known as the old men. The Senate was known as the old man, which consisted of at least almost 100 different men who will hold a council to determine who would be the Caesar over the Roman Empire. And pretty much that Caesar would have the governance over the whole Roman Empire and all of its provinces. However, the Caesar, okay, the Caesar was no more than a puppet, because ultimately the Caesar was controlled by the Senate. The Senate would tell the Caesar what to do and what to say. Okay? So your Caesars back then, during the Roman Empire, is no more than your modern day presidents today. Your modern day presidents today is no more than your modern day Caesars. So that's what made this beast, the fourth beast, which is the Roman Empire, diverse from all the others. Okay? Yeah, let's read verse 8. Daniel chapter 7, verse 8. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Okay, and this little horn is talking about America. Okay, America is this little horn. Okay, so this little horn rising up within the fourth dragon also goes into the Renaissance period. And what was the Renaissance period all about? The rebirth of the Roman Empire, which is the United States of America. Okay? And the so-called white man are the biblical Edomites. They're the devil, and they're going into slavery. Whether if you niggas or spiggers like it or not. Okay? So let's go to Revelation 13 verse 3 again. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. Now you know what that head is. That head is talking about the Roman Empire, okay? And how was the ancient Roman Empire wounded? Because ultimately, the rule of the Roman Empire failed to the rule of our people, okay? There was a transition of power within the Roman Empire. That's how it went from the Roman Empire to the Holy Roman Empire. Because our people started taking the seat of rulership within the Roman Empire, starting with Constantine, which was a wicked Israelite. Nonetheless, he was an Israelite. Okay? So the Roman Empire went from the Roman Empire to the Holy Roman Empire, starting with when Constantine got up into rulership. Okay? So that was the fall of Edom within his own empire. Because it started with our people taking rule and control of the Roman Empire. And the transitioning of power of the Roman Empire going into the Roman Empire started into the Holy Roman Empire, the transitioning of power from the Roman Empire going into the Holy Roman Empire started with Constantine, okay? And that's how his head was wounded to death. Because ultimately the Roman Empire fell to our people. Okay? So that's how his head was wounded to death. Okay? So ultimately, the Renaissance period, which will be the transitioning of the Dark Ages, when we was ruling during the Dark Ages, when we ruled Europe, when we ruled Russia, Moscow, when we ruled parts of China, Japan, when we had rule over the Americas during the Dark Ages, when the Edomites started to rise up to power, right? When the Edomites started to rise up to power, okay, that's when we started to be taken down. Because it tells you in Revelation, the 20th chapter, that when Satan there is talking about the Edomites. When the Edomites shall be loosed from his prison, he shall go out to the four corners of the earth and deceive the nations. Okay? The Arabs, the East Indians, the Chinese, the Japanese, okay? The Africans, the Japhetic people, which will be the Hawaiians, Samoans, the Etruscans, Malians, okay? Deceive the nations to battle against whom is as the sand of the sea. And who is as the sand of the sea? We are, the Israelites. That's what the Lord told Abraham in the book of Genesis. The Lord told Abraham that thy seed shall be as the sand of the sea. So the Israelites are as the sand of the sea. Okay? So to battle against whom is as the sand of the sea, that was talking about Esau gathering allies to battle against us, to basically take us out of power. And all this happened during the Renaissance period. This was the transitioning of the Dark Ages when we were ruling, transitioning into the Renaissance period of when the Edomites were starting to rise up into power. And ultimately, the Renaissance period is all about the Edomites rising up into power to revive the Roman Empire. So the Renaissance period ultimately is about the revival of Rome. And America is the revival of Rome. Okay? So Revelation 13 verse 3, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. When was the deadly wound healed? During the Renaissance period. Okay? Because once America became established, okay, and it had its own military, its own economy, its own substance, its own slaves, which are the Israelites, the so-called, in which the Israelites are the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native Indians, right? Basically, America declared its independence on what day? The 4th of July, man. On the 4th of July, America declared its independence. That's when that deadly wound was healed. America was fully established then. And guess what? The Roman Empire was fully revived. So Revelation 13 verse 3, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. Okay. So let's read verse 4. Okay, oh, and look at that. There's a drone hovering above the sky over there. I highly doubt anybody notices it, but I do. Yeah. Bring that shit over here. I'll put a curse on it. Anyways, Revelation chapter 13, verse 4. Okay, it says, and they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. Okay? And they In other words, the beast is talking about the ancient Roman Empire that has been revived. And they worship the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? Right? And what president was that? What president was that made that statement? If there was an alien invasion, will we not all put aside our differences and come together? I think it was Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan made that speech, okay? So who's like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? You know, who is able to make war with Yahweh? Because after Esau discovered the so-called UFOs, right? Hey, ultimately, Esau's been trying to figure out a way on how to destroy it. Okay? And I have news flash for you. You can't destroy the so-called UFO. You cannot destroy the so-called UFOs of the Lord, man. Those are spiritual vehicles. Okay, now Revelation chapter 13, verse 5. And there was given unto him a great mouth. You might as well say he got a great mouth. These devils are hella proud. Revelation 13, verse 5. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. Okay, 42 months. So 42 months will be four years and 2 months. I believe so. 40 years and 2 months. Let's see. Verse 7, Revelation 13 and 7, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And ultimately, that did happen. When the conquistadors and the Spaniards came over here to the America, and they pretended like they was making peace with the so-called North American Indians and the Taino Indians, ultimately what ended up happening? Like it tells you in the book of Psalms 50 verse, chapter 55 verse 20, okay, he put forth his hands such as be at peace with them. He had broken his covenant, because when these crackers came over here, they came over here making all kind of peace treaties and shit, and they broke every last treaty. Okay, the words of his, verse 21, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. Okay? War was in his devil's heart, man. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. So they made war with the saints and overcame them. when they came over here to the Americas. Made all kind of treaties with the Gadites, the so-called North American Indians, the Taino Indians, which are the Puerto Ricans from the tribe of Ephraim. Okay, the Aztec Indians, which would be the Mexicans of the tribe of Issachar. And then ultimately they conquered and defeated our people and gave our people smallpox. They gave our people, well, before they defeated our people, right? They weakened our people by giving us smallpox, scarlatina, typhoid, typhus, tuberculosis, chicken pox, lice. And over time, those things killed our people off. To the point to where Esau came over here with a Gatling gun and pretty much started slaughtering our people. So power was given him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. Okay, so Revelation 13 verse 7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and power was given over, I'm going to read it again. Revelation 13 verse 7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. Why? Because the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. So I'm going to stop right there. All praises, glory, honor, respect, and blessings to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Bashem, Rakaha Quadash. Salutations to the Lord's elect on the four corners of the earth, which is truth and sincerity, while patiently waiting for Yahweh Shai's return. And double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, which have taught us everything we know through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai. With that, I'm going to say shalom to the elect. It's on to the next one. DTA, Abad Babal. Abad Babal!